Thank you, everybody, for sticking around. Welcome back to Awake Radio. This is the No State Projects Revolution show. Wednesday night, I'm your host, Lynn James, and Dan's with me from Arizona, and hopefully Keith as well, if he's managed to pick up the phone. And anybody else who'd like to call in, you can still contact me on Autonomous 123. So welcome to the show, Dan. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you, Ben.
So, mate, was there anything you wanted to say yourself or asked us? I think there's a time delay there slightly. Can't hear nothing. I'm sorry, mate. You've disappeared by the looks of it. Steve's just posting something else. I'm not sure if anybody can still hear me. It seems like you can still hear me. Well, do apologise, Pete, but it's maybe it ain't me. Maybe
I'm still here, Ben.
Oh, okay, mate. Yeah, it sounded like you'd cut off again. So, is there anything you'd like to say? Anything you'd like to mention?
No, I just want to hear your entire story from the other day.
Oh, okay. Yes, I mean, if you heard what I was saying before, I basically helped this other couple from, running in and using all this Darth Freeman stuff. And we got there as adjourned, and literally within minutes of me doing that, I'm forced back into the same. It was actually in front of the same magistrates in the same room. So what happened was, they asked me to stand down by the side of them again. They had like a witness box. Well, in this case, it was just a little table and chair. And when they asked me to actually stand down there to begin with, I said, well, actually, I prefer to have one of these big tables because I've got a lot of paperwork I need to deal with and stuff. And they said, oh, well, you can go back to there in a minute. We'd just like you to stand down here for now, and And I said, okay, fair enough. So that was it. I ended up being stuck on this pillowy little bleating table to begin with, off to the side of them, and went through the usual stuff of having to give me name and whatnot, and then they were about to sort of kick off. I was about to rush straight into it and start taking evidence from this woman who was meant to be representing the council. So I jumped in there straight away, said objection. I'm not ready to start yet. I said, and I've also got a motion to enter the. Oh, sorry, I've got an application to hand to the court, and it's an application to dismiss. So the magistrate at first said, well, that's okay. We can look at it afterwards, and I tried to sort of interrupt her and say, well, look, I'm sorry, you can't, this is important, you've got to look at this. And she wouldn't listen to me and kept interrupting me as I was going. And then she's gone, well, look, it's only some formalities we need to look at. And it was, this woman from the council started handing over these folders, these great big giant books. And basically, these are the books they use to just get rubber stamped for the liability orders. And it's just, these things are just full of names of people who allegedly haven't paid and whatnot. And while that's going on, I finished reading them, and I've turned around and gone, well, actually, I've not even been given any copies of that evidence. I said, I've not even seen none of that. And I said, and look, before you actually see anything that they're going to give you, I said, this is important. You do need to look at my application. I said, it's an application to dismiss on the grounds that there's no case to answer here. So the magistrate said, well, there was two of them there, but it was a woman who's doing most of the talking, and she said, oh, well, okay, if it seems to be that sort of that important, then we'll take a look at it. So that got handed over to them, and they stopped and read through it. We probably stopped for about 5 minutes between that, and they said, oh, well, okay, well, we've read through this now, and you've raised a lot of points and whatnot, and we would still like to, we want to hear both sides of the story. So we want to hear, we want to hear, what the council have to say. So I can't remember for the life of me what I said, but I threw some question at them, and the woman from the council stood up and went, well, I'm not legally qualified, I can't answer that, but... And then she started reading out to a load of stuff from, out of this book she had in front of her about, the Local Government Finance Act applies to him and all this stuff. And or she started accusing me of, disputing the liability and stuff. And I can't remember everything of the verbatim what happened, but basically she ended up saying, she ended up just giving them the usual waffle about, what the local government finance tax applies to them because it says so in the local government finance act and all this stuff. So that's basically she just read out a circular reasoning argument to them. So I jumped in there and I said objection. I said all she's just giving you there is a legal opinion. I said that isn't facts proving that the law is applicable. And I said it's what she's just done there is she's saying that the law applies because the law says so. I said, well, that's a circular argument, and it's a logical fallacy. And the male judge that was sitting next to this other woman, this other magistrate, or this woman acting as a magistrate, he actually nodded at me and sort of agreed, as if to say, well, yeah, you're right, saying that. So it went back and forwards for a little while, and I just kept throwing these questions at them, and the woman again from the council turned around and said, she read off a load more waffle from out of the book, and turned around and said, and Mr. James is disputing the liability. And I went, objection. And the judge stepped in and went, well, you can't keep objecting to these things the way you're doing. She said, this isn't the forum for objections. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? I'm in a court, I said, it's them. I said, it's not me being put on trial here. It's them. It's their evidence and facts. It's their evidence and claim being put to the test, not me. And she said, well, you're not really on trial here. I said, well, okay, metaphorically speaking, but I said, it's not me. I said, it's their evidence being put to the test here, not me. And I said, I'm objecting because she's claiming I'm disputing the liability. I said, no. I said, there is no liability to dispute. They haven't proven one exists yet. So, it sort of it just basically carried on from there, and she kept on coming back with reading the same stuff out to them all the time, and I just kept jumping in there saying, objection. She's not giving you any facts proving that the law is applicable. And then I jumped in at another point during this and said, well, and the other thing is, I said the court hasn't even proven it has jurisdiction here yet. And I said, what facts has the prosecution given this court to prove that it has jurisdiction? And they went dead quiet. And so I'm jumping the gun a bit, but just before that as well, I brought up the issue of jurisdiction. Not jurisdiction, sorry, conflicts of interest. And I said, well, look, before we start here, I said, am I entitled to a fair and meaningful hearing? She said, yes, we're giving you one of those right now. And I said, okay, fair enough. So I said, could I get a fair hearing if there's a conflict of interest? Same old thing of, well, there is no conflict of interest here. So I've jumped straight in. I'm not saying there isn't, but there is a conflict of interest. I'm merely just, could you please just give me a yes or no? Could I get a fair hearing if there's a conflict of interest? And they started saying, that was it. They said, it's a hypothetical question. That's a hypothetical question, and we don't have to answer that. I said, well, it might be hypothetical at this stage, but the next question is going to get me to the facts of whether there is or isn't. So I said, just please give me a yes or no. And I turned around and said, well, look, would it be fair, and this carried on for quite a while, and I said, well, look, would it be fair for me to assume that if there was a conflict of interest, I couldn't get a fair hearing? I said, is that fair for me to assume? Just give me a yes or no. And after a bit of mumbling and umming and ahhing, I eventually got one of them to say, yes, that's fair enough for you to assume. So I said, great, okay. We've established that now. So I said, right, this is what I said to both the magistrates sitting down at the side of me. I said, do you two pay council tax? And the woman magistrate turned around and said, well, that's irrelevant to this issue. And I went, I'm sorry, I don't see how it is. I said, if you pay council tax, how is that not going to affect your decision in determining that I've got a liability to pay? And their faces, their jaws just dropped. And the clerk of the court stepped in, I believe it was at that point, and said, well, look, this is a properly constitutionally convened court, and this, that, and the other. And I've said, well, I'm not saying whether it's whether it's a I'm not arguing whether it's a constitutionally convened court or not. I said I'm simply just establishing whether there could be a conflict of interest here. And that was, but like I say, dead silence. Couldn't get anything out of them. And then it just sort of carried on from there. When I was saying, well, look, this isn't something we can discuss here. It's all hypotheticals and all that. And I said, well, look, this issue isn't going to go away. This is what I said to the clerk, 'cause he started intervening a little bit as well. And I said, look, this issue isn't going to go away just because you're choosing not to answer to it. I said, if I take this to the High Court to an appeal, it's still going to be there, and somebody's going to have to answer to it, whether you do it now or I do it there. So I realised I wasn't going to get much further on that point anyway. But I made the point that it's obviously an issue, and I raised the issue that there's possibly a conflict of interest there, and they couldn't answer to the fact that they both paid council tax, and they couldn't show that this wasn't going to affect their decision. This wasn't going to cause some sort of unconscious bias or whatever. So that was that. So again, they went back to the woman from the council, and she started reading out a lot of stuff saying that that was it. At another point, they said, well, has any evidence actually been given at Mr. Jones that, he's, that the law is applicable, sort of thing, the evidence that he's been asking for. And I've turned around and said, oh, yes, we sent a letter to him on this day and that day and all that. And I said, objection. I said, what? Yes, they did send me information through. I said, none of it proved that the law was applicable. I said, all they did was just send me a copy of the Act. And I said, that doesn't prove that it applies. I said, they've got to prove it applies before referring to the Act, and then, I don't know, or, they've got to, before referring to it, they've got to prove it applies to me to begin with. Or something like that, so I can't remember the exact words, but that was basically it. And I'll say, I just wouldn't let them off the hook. I just kept objecting all the time. And it was one of those things where, during the hearing, during a lot of these things, they're always trying to knock you off always trying to knock your momentum off and stopping you from and breaking your chain of thought, because they're constantly interrupting you when you're just trying to get going and you're just trying to get these questions out. But it was one of these occasions where I was just able to keep the pressure up on them non-stop and just objecting and not letting them off the hook. Whatever they were saying, whatever questions they would give it, whichever they were whatever they were coming back with and answering with, if I could contradict it, I was doing it. And I just kept on at them. I just kept the pressure up, and it just got to a point where they said, "Yep, okay, we'll adjourn for 10 minutes and come back and decide what we're going to do." And at one point, they actually made an issue of my application and gave it over to the clerk and said, "Right, well, on this application, he's actually raising a point of law." And I said, "Objection! I'm not raising a point of law. This is an issue of facts and law. That's what it says." And they repeated what I said, and I said, "Yes, that's what it means." And they sort of took note of that. Anyway, they adjourned and came back a little while later and said, they gave me some dates. They had a few problems with their computers apparently, not just catching. And said that I was having a few problems with the computers over the dates and that, and then they eventually came back with a date for September. And just before they was about to break, they turned around and said, "Well, okay, it looks like we're going to have to adjourn for this. So how long are we going to allow for this case to be heard at the next hearing?" And I was about to jump in and say, "Well, just a couple of hours, that'd be enough." And I thought that it's not going to take much longer than that. They've turned around and said, "We'll give you 4 hours." So I couldn't believe that. 4 hours. So I said, great. I said, well, that's all right. I said, I've got a few people I want to be able to cross-examine. So I've got people I want to call up as witnesses. The person who made the complaint, and I want to cross-examine this other lady as well, this manager, this new manager I'm dealing with. And anyway, they went out, came back, and then the clerk of the court actually said, "Actually, we're going to give you four. It's put down for 4, but we might give you 5 as well. We're going to push for 5. So they're going to give me anything up to 5 hours to get this case sorted at the next hearing." And I made the point as well, just before we was about to go. I said, "Look, I now have a legitimate expectation that I'm going to be able to challenge all this evidence and cross-examine any and all witnesses against me." I said, because when I was in the last hearing here, this is what I was, this is what was stated I could do. And so that I said, so now it's a legitimate expectation of mine that I am going to be able to cross-examine these witnesses. and they said, "Oh, yeah, that will be down to the council to decide who they're going to, put forward as witnesses and all that." And I said, "Well, that isn't the issue. Actually, I said it's the person who's made the complaint against me. So that I want to be able to cross-examine those people." And I sort of pressed that point home. I said, "And now it is a legitimate expectation because this is what I was promised last time when I was here." I said, "You do understand what I mean by legitimate expectation, didn't you?" And they said, "Oh, yeah, we know what you mean." So that was it. So it was got the dates, and that was pretty much the end of it. So I can't remember everything offhand, everything that was said. Little bits and pieces trigger my memory every now and then what happened, but it lasted only about half an hour. But I was only expecting it to last 5 or 10 minutes, and it lasted a lot longer than I thought. And it certainly wasn't what I was expecting. Yet again, I'm always getting surprised a lot of the time since I've been dealing with this, as the way these things have gone. And,
I've got a question for you, Vin. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now, Paul. You all right, mate?
Good, mate. My mic's hanging by a thread, so I'll get this question in.
Okay.
How are you going to deal with the fact that they haven't actually proved jurisdiction yet? When you go in, are you going to have to address that straight away and get it down to 5 minutes rather than the 5 hours?
Yeah, that's right. It's going to that'll probably be one of the first things I'll jump on. Jurisdiction first thing.
Because they're giving you this 5 hours, and you'll have to be careful they're not tricking you into this expectation, when in fact you're going to miss the very first, most important thing, aren't you, which you need to get arguing with in the first 2 minutes.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, that is what I'm going to do. I mean, they'll probably do the same thing. They'll try and rush it through, and the first people they want to hear from is the council, and I'll say, "Objection. You haven't even established the court's got jurisdiction to hear this yet." And that'll be the first thing I'll jump on. So,
when you do speak to them, you should let them know that that's what you're going to ask as well, because they're going to go to all this trouble of arranging a 5-hour hearing, and they know that you're.
Oh, we've lost him.
Oh,
you're back. Go on. Keep going.
I was just saying, when you talk to them between the hearing, the next hearing, you let them know that that's all you're going to ask in the first 2 minutes, because it might just put them off, because of the 5-hour hearing. I mean, that's going to take so much trouble.
Yeah.
They might just pull out because of that.
They could do, yeah. I mean, if we can't get past that, if we can't get past the issue of jurisdiction and the given, they'll probably still railroad me past all that, but I'll do the same thing again. Look, this issue isn't going away. This will now be an issue on appeal, if need be. And it'll be, and this will be mentioned in the appeal that this hearing today, you failed to establish jurisdiction. So that will be one of the first things I'm going to do. Well, probably the first thing I'll jump on the moment the moment it starts. So, and I mean, I've got more paperwork that I'm going to put into the court. I'm not just going to rely on that application. There's going to be more paperwork going in there. There's going to be more issues and elements that I'm going to be raising that they need to prove. I'm going to be sending letters and that back to the council again that I want them to answer before we go to the hearing. So I'm just going to keep up the pressure. I'm not going to let off on them.
No, it sounds like you got the hang of it. You're sort of finding your comfort zone. But what was the other question? Would you ever sort of convey to them when you're going to be negotiating with them that you're actually in the media, that you're a journalist? Or would you keep that quiet? Because that will either make it worse for you, or they'll run a mile. They'll come at you with the best barrister, or they'll, it might worry them. Would you ever let them know? Would you consider that or not?
I don't know yet. Let's see how it goes. I mean, it's not something I've actually thought about as such. I mean, when we turn up on the day out, we're going to have people there from, people there, acting as witnesses and supporting us. So I've got a few people coming there that I know of, and I might mention it. I might turn around and say, look, there's people who are acting here as witnesses for me today that they're here from the media. Acting as independent witnesses that they're here from the media, and we could mention the No State Project. You never know, but
if they know the question you're asking, if you make it clear what you're asking, and that you'll be asking it all the way up to the High Court, and that you've got a media interest as well.
Mm.
If they get their heads round what's happening, they're going to be a little bit worried because we know a lady who works in the magistrates' court. My sister knows her, and they've had all the junior staff in meetings explaining this Freeman stuff to them because they were all getting a bit curious about it, that everybody was doing it. So they actually sat them down and explained that if you've got a driver's license, that means, the law applies to you. So they're telling their staff a lot of crap as well. So
Yeah.
I think that they're actually a little bit worried about their staff asking questions, because these are just normal people like you and me as well, who are quite, could quite get an awakening anyway, and their jobs are on the line as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Was it Stalin called? I don't mean to be derogatory to them, but Stalin described them as useful idiots. But if they start waking up to this stuff, they're not going to be idiots anymore, are they? So yeah, they're probably desperate to keep these people,
And the media is a little bit different in the UK, isn't it, to the US, where, like even if you're in a band or something, you get famous. Things get famous big over here for some reason, rather than in the States. If somebody had seen Mark Stevens in a courtroom in Birmingham, it would be spread like wildfire, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
And because people are genuinely curious, so I was wondering if, use the media as well, it might wake a few souls up.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, we're looking into it, but I mean, I might well mention it. I mean, I'll have a chat with Mark about it, see what he thinks, any tips on how to go about doing it, But it's something maybe we'll bring up. It might be worth mentioning. When we're there, I'll turn around and say that I've got some witnesses here. They're just going to be acting as independent witnesses, but a few of them are here from the media. We might even be able to knock up some little badges with, No State Project Media Group on it, or No State Project Group on it, something like that, and I could wear them. So it'll help put the magistrates on their best behaviour as well. That's the thing, and I suppose they're going to be trying to paint me with the same brush as a lot of these freemen as well.
Yeah, when I was in Sheffield a couple of weeks ago, I had an appeal. But he was doing all the usual railroading, but he was looking at it from a different perspective, as if, if I was the judge, I would have done the same thing, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was really tricky. But one of the things he said to me was, you're just what was it, a protester? And I said, and he also said I was a citizen as well.
No.
But I said, I don't think I'm protesting, sir. I'm just asking you what evidence there is that and it was tricky because the Road Traffic Act in the last trial actually applied to me, so I was kind of having to. It sort of slowed me down because it was just a weird. It didn't make any sense, the proceedings at all. But yeah, a protester was.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's I've not had them throw at me yet, the citizen thing. I've been dying for them to do it, and I still haven't done it yet.
Yeah, that was nice, because it was a nice, easy one for me. It was one of the first ones he said, and he explained, he was explaining how it worked, and I didn't really understand, because it doesn't obviously make any sense. But I did hear the word citizen. And I said, well, I'm not sure what a citizen actually is, sir, but what I was getting at is, and I just said the same question, and then he ended up with the begging the question, and his last words were, because I'm telling you. So, and then he got away from me right then. But it did come back to him, and it was obvious that he knew where I was coming from. But I didn't, unfortunately, have the skill with the cross-examination that I was hoping that I had, because you do got a bit off track.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of people asking some questions here. I've got someone saying, what is the difference between this and the Freeman stuff? Well, the big difference is that the Freeman stuff is all based on legal opinion still. You're going in there and you're arguing and you're stating things such as, you need my consent for all this to apply to me, or and they bring the issue up of the straw man, you're not the name, you're not the legal name, and, you're not, you're a flesh and blood man and all this sort of stuff. But basically, bottom line is the free man stuff relies on legal argument still, and we don't go in and argue. That's the difference between what we use, Mark Stevens' approach, and what he wrote the book about. It's based on you don't go in there and argue. You throw whatever they're going to throw back at you, or throw at you backward questions, and you never take any sort of stand against yourself, and you never give your own opinions. You feed their opinions back against them. And you keep it factual. You keep it logical.
Yeah, there's also there's the thing which came to mind was actually knowing what proof is. So to prove something that this is something that I was trying to grasp as I was getting this. Is to prove something you've either got to have a witness who's seen something like a car going down the road with their own eyes, that can be considered as some kind of fact. And the other kind of proof is some kind of mathematical.
Oh, we've lost this mic again. It'll be back in a minute.
When?
Yeah, your mic just cut out there a sec, mate.
Yeah, just what actually. So when you ask what proof have they got that the Act of Parliament applies, it is a genuine question, isn't it, Vin?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that is because they say it themselves. Whenever it's all about the applicability and the It's the conclusion of whether someone's guilty or not that flows from that applicability. But it's still a factual element that has to be proven regardless. And they talk about this all the time, applicability, but they overlook the fact that you've got to prove that factually and not put it across as an opinion, and that makes it a fact. Yeah, it's a fact they have an opinion that it applies, but you're not interested in that. You're interested in the facts behind that opinion, not the fact that they have an opinion. But this is where they get it mixed up, and this is where they, that's what they interpret as a fact in and of itself. Simply saying just because because we say so, sort of thing. And yes, I mean, someone was mentioning about the Freeman stuff as well. Yeah, it's all based around contracts as well. Apparently all this is to do with contracts. Well, I think that's a load of codswallop. I think it's been proven time and time again in many cases, including the Meads versus Meads case. They're not going to accept this. It's got nothing to do with contracts. The fact is that it's compulsory that you support government. Compulsory, not voluntary. So where's the contract if that's the case? That blows that argument completely out of the water, saying it's a contract. The contract wouldn't be valid if it was sticking a gun to someone's head and forcing it against them, would it? So what makes it and they force this, it's their will of opinion, and they force it against you. These things called statutes and acts. It's forced against you. It's got nothing to do with a contract. You never agreed with it. And all this thing about consent of the governed it's an oxymoron in itself, that term alone. Consent of the governed. Change the word governed to controlled. Consent of the controlled. If you're already under their control, why do they need your consent? Doesn't make sense. It's not rational. So, it's
Yeah, that's right. And another thing that they do, you can look at, the judge was reading off, which I was too slow to pick up on this at the time, but looking back, the judge was reading off the Road Traffic Act. Sort of sneakily, they just start reading off. And it's almost like a script for them, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you have to object, and, and you can act naively and say, objection, sir, can you just, repeat what you said, reading off a script? And say, well, that's assuming facts not in evidence.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember saying that at one point during the, when she turned around and said, I'm disputing the liability. I said, objection, assuming facts not in evidence. I'm not, at no point have I disputed the thingy. I remember thinking it, I can't remember if I ever said it, but it's a matter of, I'll never refuse to pay. I've not refused to pay council tax. I'll pay them if they can put the facts on the table. I think at one point I did say something along those lines. I said, so I'm not disputing it. There's nothing to dispute until you prove it. Once you prove a liability exists, then I can dispute it. I can't dispute something that doesn't exist yet. And this was a point they were making as well, that I've been given an opportunity to take it to the valuation tribunal, which is an appeals tribunal, and that's the point I made, that they haven't proven that a liability exists yet, so it's a waste of time me going appealing against something. I can't appeal against something that doesn't exist, that they haven't proven to, or that they haven't proven to exist yet. And that's what I threw at them. And I couldn't come back with anything after that. You know, like I say, she was just dead silent. And she made the point of saying that, you know, she wasn't legally qualified during one of the questions. I think I was actually asking the question, you know, what facts are there to prove that the Local Government Finance Act applies? I think that's what I might have said right at the beginning. And that's when she's come back with, well, I can't answer that, I'm not legally qualified. And I threw it back at them a few minutes later and said, you've just had her admit she's not legally qualified. And I said, isn't she reading out to you a legal opinion? Isn't she making a legal determination that I've got a liability to pay council tax? So she's just admitted she's not qualified to do so. So that got me shook as well. That really upset her. Her face dropped at that point. She was like a stoner for the rest of the hearing after that. And before that, she was quite smug and full of herself.
Yeah, that's sorry to break in, but that's quite an admittance in itself.
Yeah,
I'm not qualified.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if we weren't qualified at our trade and we pretended to be a tradesman, and then you get to the job and you're in front of the foreman and you can't perform, that wouldn't, of course, you wouldn't work anywhere. So it's just, to me, that's just the bizarrest thing I'd ever heard. I mean, well, why do you even have this job if you're not qualified?
Exactly. Yeah. I said she's there representing the council. So how can she be standing there representing the council,
exactly,
making a legal determination, and she's just admitted she's not legally qualified to do so? You know, I can't remember the exact words, but that's basically what I threw at them. And yeah, just silence. They couldn't answer it. And I thought, gotcha, sort of thing. I mean, that was when I really sort of perked up at that point, because I thought, oh, gotcha, on that one. But that's when I was kicking myself, thinking, I can't believe I'm not bloody recording this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a shame too, but that's okay. There'll be there may be more times.
Yeah, but it was one of those things where I couldn't believe how well it was going for myself. I'm sort of it's falling off my tongue as we're going. You know, like I say, everything that was coming up, I was countering it. And I couldn't believe how well I was doing. It was like, you know, I was sort of saying to myself, bloody hell, this is going well. What's going on here?
You're like Bart's clone.
Yeah. But I've just had someone else add me as a contact. I don't know if they want to join the call in a bit. I'll bring them in if they want. But yeah, sorry, I'm trying to catch up with some of these questions in the chat box. It's got a bit nutty. Someone's asking me about council tax. So as you say, it doesn't matter what act it is. Whether it's anything to say you owe council tax or anything else. It's all about what facts do they have to prove it applies. And if you look into this and you read Mark's book and that, the facts are, it's just an opinion. It's an opinion backed by a gun. That's it. Those are the facts. That's what, that's how allegedly that bit of paper creates an obligation on you. It's somebody else's opinion, and they're going to back that opinion up with force, with violence and coercion. That's it. There is no valid obligation. There is no valid duty that bit of paper can create. Not when you're sticking a gun to your head to make it.
So Ben,
sorry,
I got a question, Ben. What if you asked them, where's the evidence that the council tax code applies to you? And they came out and told you, well, it's because we say so, and if you don't pay up, we're going to damage you. What would you say to them?
So you're admitting it's under coercion then?
That's right.
Yeah, and then I'll say, are you telling me, are you claiming this is a valid obligation? If they say, yeah, so you're telling me that you believe valid obligations get created under coercion and violence?
Right. If they agree with you that their only evidence is the guns that they have pointed at you, what do you do then?
Well, you've let them show their true colours then, didn't you? So it's a matter of what are you telling me then? Are you telling me you believe that that's a valid obligation? That's what it comes down to. How can you? What facts do you have to prove that that's legitimate? that, based on nothing more than somebody else's opinion, that you're going to use violence against me, to force against me. You know, what facts have you got then to prove that's legitimate or valid? Try and justify it. Justify yourselves. Because that's what it comes down to. They all claim this is about protection, don't they?
Yes, but Ben, for the benefit of people that are new to this, you have to understand that that's all they have. Yeah. And that eventually you may have to pay it, because that's what they will resort to if they can get away with it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, I mean, it's probably never likely to happen. Well, sometimes you do get some of these people that admit it that way, but yeah, it's a matter of saying, well, yeah, if you're going to admit this is nothing more than somebody else's opinion being forced on somebody else using violence, well then, try and justify yourselves then. You telling me you're justified in doing that? Because that's what it comes down to, because their claim that they're justified in doing what they're doing is because they're providing a service and they're providing, they're providing protection to us. So you just turn it back on them. Are you telling me that you believe it's valid and legitimate that a service can be provided at the barrel of a gun, basically? That's what it comes down to, isn't it? Like I say, we're getting them to show their true colours. It's like, thank you, you've just admitted what you really are. It's, you know, the mask slips. But that's what you're getting them to do. You get them to, if you ultimately did get them to tell the truth, that's all you're showing them to be. You're just a bunch of violent individuals forcing your whims and opinions on other people, or the whims and opinions of a group of people called Parliament, legislators, whatever. So, I mean, that is the goal. That is what we're getting to, because that is the answer. Those are the facts. What it really is. They just won't admit it. They want to try and sidestep that issue and not, you know, they want to pretend, you know, they've got to keep people believing that, oh no, they're doing this for our benefit and for our protection. Because the truth is, that's obviously not the case, is it? So, does that answer your question better, or let me waffling on a bit?
Yeah, that was the point I was trying to make. That is the fact. That is the honest answer. Is we have a gun pointed to your head, and that's all we need. And that would stop your question. That would answer your question, but they'll never.
I mean, basically, basically, it would come down to, so you're admitting then that I'm a slave. You know, you're
and isn't asking, you know, our the conflict of interest is alone in him saying it's because I said so.
Yeah,
that's a complete conflict of interest right there.
Yeah,
if he's representing other than the state or other than by being the biased opinion, and saying because he says so, then my, you know, Vin's code says so because Vin wrote it, and you have to apply to it. It means the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm going to find this bit of case law, but there's a bit of case law from America where they were talking about, is it the Swears case, I think? Oh no, not Swears, it's another case, isn't it? Where basically it was, give me a second. I'll find it in a minute, but basically it was saying that, you know, to be held to the mere will and opinion of another, is the very essence of slavery, sort of thing, and it's abhorrent in a free and just society, yada yada yada. So that's what they mean by that. You know, to simply be held to an arbitrary opinion of somebody else just because they're sticking a gun in your head creates you know, a slave master relationship as such. So there is no agent. What was I going to say? Agent principal relationship there, is there? Like they try to pretend there is. See, they're claiming to be public servants, aren't they? So they're essentially saying, well, there's an agent-principal relationship there. We're the principal and they're the agent, because they're the trustees and all this nonsense that the Freemen come out with. And the truth is that isn't true. There is no agent-principal relationship. It's a master-slave relationship, or it's a slave relationship, but the masters are pointing guns at everyone. It's not because they're genetically or intelligence-wise superior. It's just that they're violent. They have to use violence, or they could never get away with what they do. That's what it comes down to.
So Ben, did you answer?
They're not civilized, are they? So,
Did you answer that person's question that was asking about the difference between how you approach this and the Freeman material?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I did, but I mean, yeah, I'll go over it again. But it's just basically that we go after facts. We don't make legal opinions about them. We don't base any of this on contract. And what we do is, if that is the case, and let's say they do admit, yeah, this is a contractual obligation, well then where are the facts to prove there's a contract? You know, let's say the Road Traffic Act, they admitted it was a contract. I wouldn't just accept that and say, oh great then, so it is a contract, so you need my consent, yada yada yada. You're just getting into legal arguments with them and opinions.
Sorry, I didn't get that letter.
Yeah, I'll just turn around and say, well, okay, I'll say it's contractual then. Show me the facts. Where are the elements? Show me the facts that there was a meeting of the minds. Show me where did I ever agree to this? I mean, if I come out of all this nonsense about, oh, well, it's under the Constitution, yada yada yada, what facts have you got to prove that that Constitution applies to me? That bit of paper some bloke called a king signed in a muddy field in Kent somewhere 700 odd years ago applies to me. You know, that's basically what it comes down to. So that's basically what we do. And like I say, the difference is that we just go after facts, and we don't argue legal, make any sort of stand or argue legal opinions with them. And that is what a lot of the Freeman stuff does, unfortunately. You're going about it all the wrong way. What Rob Menard did was lay out the blueprint of how the legal system should work under their system, which they created. And it's quite sensible the way it's put together. It's not totally irrational the way it actually allegedly got put together and the way it's meant to work. But then the problem is you've got that squidgy thing in the middle that causes all the problems called people. And a thing called corruption, that comes about through people, gaining power. You've only got to look at the Milgram and Stanford prison experiments to see where this was going to go. Even if they created this legal system with the best intentions in the world, it was going to get corrupt one way or the other. And the fact is that it never started from any point where it was built on people's consent, or it was built from an honest and uncorrupted foundation. It was built from dirt to begin. It was a rotten barrel of apples to begin with. It wasn't a clean one that gradually started rotting. It was a rotten barrel already before it ever got started. So, and this is where the Freemen come from. They seem to come at it from a point of view of, yeah, it started off as a wonderful thing, and then it just got corrupt. No, it was corrupt from the start. Even the founding fathers that made or allegedly created the American Constitution, they were slave owners themselves. They never had any sense of equality, not really. So, there you go. This entire country was built and founded on slavery. And we just live in a modern form of it now. So, don't know if you'll agree with me on that, but if you're still there, you'll sound like you've gone quiet.
I totally agree, Ben.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to keep up with these people on thinking, would you make statements in court? I own myself. No, I wouldn't.
That's a good question.
I really don't get that.
Neither would I.
I own myself. Well, how can I own myself? I am myself. I've heard people throw this about sometimes. It's all about, you own your own body. Well, I don't own it. It's me. I have a body. It's not because I own it. I never went out and bought it, sort of thing, separately. It's me. I have a body. It's not like I necessarily own it. I have control over it with my mind and conscience. That's it. But in terms of owning,
Ben, isn't ownership? Ownership is illegal. It's legal gibberish.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's political again. Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, in that sense, yeah. So that again, that's just a political statement you're making. So yeah, I mean, I don't go along with that about self ownership and that. You can't own yourself. You are yourself. It's you. There's nothing to own as such. So it's you're not separate from yourself. To me, that's just nonsense, So, I don't play that. I don't go along with that. And I've heard a lot of people actually write big art, and read a few articles. Someone wrote a huge article on it a little while back, and I just couldn't agree with it. So maybe it's just me. Maybe I just haven't thought deeply enough about it yet. But it just doesn't ring true to me. Doesn't ring right. I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep up these messages, but it's going bonkers. I can't keep up. Someone was saying contractual obligation is based on consent. Well, it's not just based on consent. It's based on mutual agreement. It's based on a meeting of the minds, or a real meeting of the minds where everybody understands exactly where they stand and they understand all the elements involved in that contract. And the thing is with legal contracts, especially when you're dealing with anything to do with banks or anything like that, you don't see all the elements. You don't really know what you're getting involved in. And they do deliberately hide this information from you. And they can get away with it because the courts back them up all the way anyway. So, this is the thing. So, see, that's the thing with contracts. A contract is just simply an agreement between two people, but it's... The thing is with a legal contract is that what you're saying is, by saying, well, this is a legal contract, is the two people who are in agreement signing that bit of paper. And a contract only exists in your head anyway. All a written contract is nothing more than the written, a written record of what's in your head, what you believe to be that contract. That's all it is. But the thing is with a legal contract is, you're basically saying to each other, if either party doesn't, fulfill this agreement, fulfill this, the shared agreement we made, then we're going to use violence against each other to make sure we do. Because what are you going to use? You're going to use you're going to use the court system, which is it's using coercion and violence against people. So that's basically what you're saying is, you're signing a contract. What you're really saying to each other is, well, I don't really trust you. And if you break this contract, if you break this agreement, I'm going to set the dogs on you. So that's basically what a legal contract means in that sense. So who can call that valid? Who can call that an actual agreement? It's actually agreement saying you don't really trust each other, which I think is bonkers. But there you go. I don't know how you lot feel about it, but that's my thoughts. You can unmute if all of you have had to mute or something to stop the call dropping, and just let me know you're there still.
Yeah, we're here, Vin.
Okay, mate. I'll say, I mean, that's my thoughts on it. The more you look into it, the more you start to realise how illogical a lot of this stuff is, especially when it comes under La land, legal land. So, Paul's saying his mic's knackered now, so, sorry about that, mate, and, we'll have to, not that it's my fault, but, he can listen in. If you type anything in, I'll try and read it out. I'll try and bring the group up. I've lost the group again, so, if you've got any questions, mate, just throw them in. But, I'll try and keep up with everyone on the group still.
So what's next now then? Do they ask, do you got to submit more motions? What's your next step then?
I'm going to make a few more phone calls to the council. We've got a few more people. We're trying to work our way up the chain. We're trying to get to sort of the top bloke, if you like, in the council to deal with this. And it's actually done. The money's actually being collected through a private company called themselves Capita. So that's who I'm actually dealing with. I'm not actually dealing directly with anyone in the council themselves. But the council's just a group of people, obviously, I know that. It's not, the council isn't, it's a fictional sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, they're acting, they get third-party company help.
Yeah, they're using
doing the dirty work.
It's a step in, yeah, exactly.
Or it's all dirty work.
Yeah, so, because obviously I'm getting no joy out of the people dealing with this private company, I'm going straight to the council and saying, look, these are meant to be your contractors to collect this money, and they're refusing to give me any facts proving there's an obligation to pay now. Because you're the council and you gave them this contract, obviously you're the ones who should have given them this information. So who do I talk to in the council to establish that there's facts proving the law's applicable, yada, yada, yada. So that's what we're doing at the moment. And hopefully I'll get together with Mark probably might not be this week, but hopefully next week. I mean, I'll call him to the show Saturday, and hopefully we might sort something out. We'll make a few more calls, and we'll just keep the pressure on them, and we'll try and push this, to the top as far as I can go. At the moment, we've been given a number of a department we need to talk to, so a certain gent we need to talk to. But I did actually make a call the other week to him just to see if I could set a call up, so I know he'd be available. And I got talking to his deputy head. I'll actually play this on Sunday on my show, the call. I think I've got it edited now. I sent a copy over to Mark, and I don't know if he wants to play it first or I'll play it myself. But basically, I got talking to him. This was about a 30-minute call, I think. It's quite a lengthy call. And I got him admitting, he just basically admitted all sorts. He believed he never had to show any facts proving the law was applicable. Or that the council has any obligation to prove that, I have an obligation to pay. He was making some absolutely outrageous statements. And he just didn't seem to have a clue. I was saying to him, what department in the council can show me, who is it I need to talk to show me proof that, the Local Government Finance Act applies, which is what they try and, force on us, to pay council tax. And, he said, well, I just don't know. I don't know who'd have that information. So it's like, and the department I was actually calling was meant to be the department that deals with oversight of the contracts between them and this company Capita. So if they're meant to be overseeing the contracts, well then surely they should be the ones knowing that they, this company meant to be carrying out this job for them has the proper information, has the facts in front of them, knowing that what they're doing is correct and proper, that they have the facts, knowing that the law applies and such. And he just didn't seem to have a clue. So I've got to have a word with his boss above him, and then we'll see where we go from there. And we'll probably have to go, up another rung of the ladder to see what happens. But that was just an hilarious call. That was. And Mark's got a copy of that, so he may well put that up on his site soon as a call to shame. We'll see what happens, but that's basically it. I'm just going to say I'll keep the pressure up. We'll still keep making phone calls. I'm going to send them another letter again because all the letters I've been sending them up to now, they're ignoring the questions. So I'm going to resend a new letter to them now. I'm going to add a few extra questions in there now. I've come up with a few others I've thought of, and I'll just keep the pressure on them, and that'll be it basically. I'll make a few more calls to this new manager as well, because she wasn't available in court apparently, or she didn't want to see me in court on Monday. She was hiding. It appeared because I asked when the magistrates went out to adjourn, to decide what they were going to do. I actually asked her, I said, can you tell me if Mrs. So-and-so's here, this new manager? And she said to me, I'm not obliged to answer that question. And she wouldn't look at me. She had the screaming up at me, as you can imagine. And she's turned around and gone, well, I'm not obliged to answer that question. And I just sort of giggled and, and left it, because obviously, could see she really didn't want to talk to me. I've never felt so much contempt and hatred from a woman before in my life, apart from my mother, of course, but there you go. But, that's, I've got to have a chat with her again. I'll be sending her some letters and emails now, and I'll just be keeping up the pressure, basically. They've either got the facts or they haven't. That's what it comes down to, so... I've got a couple of months, got 2.5 months till this case gets heard. So they've got 28 days. Oh yeah, that was it at the end of the hearing. They had 28 days to reply to my application. The application to dismiss, motion to dismiss. So they've got that long to reply. And I said to them, if you want any of the case law reports regarding the citations that I've got in the application, feel free to ask. I'll happily provide them. I've got no problem with that. So the point I'm making is that, well, I can provide evidence of what I'm giving you. I expect the council to be able to do the same. So, let's see where it goes. And let's see what reply they're going to try and come back with. that a bit long-winded, or that answer it? Capita involved. They're a private company. Where is the contract? Or am I picking this up wrong? Well, yeah, there is a contract between them and the council, but I'm not interested in that. It's the fact that, have they got the facts to prove this alleged law applies to me, or is it the council who's got the evidence? And if so, why haven't Capita got this evidence themselves to be able to show me? So obviously there's a breakdown in communication there, if that's the case, and it's just a matter of, getting to talk to the right people who claim that this does apply. Because at the end of the day, who are these witnesses? They've got to have witnesses there with first-hand personal knowledge. Are these people from the council, or are they from Capita? Now, these people from Capita are actually throwing it at me as if they're the ones with the evidence. They're the ones that have this personal knowledge. Well, if that's the case, I want to call them up, and I want to be able to cross-examine them. So that's where I'm going to take it. But the fact that they are a private contractor, a lot of people jump on that and try and make a big issue of that and saying that it's fraud and they don't have all the, it's not a valid contract between them and the council, and it's private, and these are private companies coming after you for money, and it's not government and this, that, and the other. Well, at the end of the day, that's true to a degree, but they're still collecting this money on behalf of the Crown, and that's the point I've made in my application. I've stated that the claimant is the Crown, because the council is an agency of the Crown, and just because they sublet their extortion racket out to another company, doesn't mean that this money isn't ultimately being collected on behalf of the Crown. So that's where I'll keep it. That's where I'll keep the focus. You keep it on the Crown, because that's important as well, because obviously the judges or the magistrates, whoever you're in front of, swear an oath of allegiance to her, to the Crown. And the woman, and the woman known as the Queen is ultimately the head of that organisation, meant to be the CEO, if you like. So it's ultimately being collected on behalf of her. And that's where you keep the focus. There's no point getting wrapped up in all this stuff about private companies and contracts and all that. You just keep it, you take it to its source and concentrate on that. So, what else? Oh, surely a Capita like Tesco taking his court. Well, yeah, it is the same thing, but like I say, the source of where this money's ultimately going, who it's being done on behalf of, is the Crown. So just keep it there. There's no point there's no point going off into a rabbit hole about where the money's really going and who's really collecting it. Ultimately, it's being collected on behalf of that thing called the Crown, whatever it is, whether it's a corporation or whatever. Couldn't care less. It's just a matter of you just keep it focused on the source of where ultimately this money's going, because it creates a conflict of interest either way between both the judges and the council. And it's also an issue of if any of you did go to the evaluation tribunal or the appeals tribunal that you can allegedly use, they claim to be independent. Well, if you find out, I actually made a call, if I get this call, I think I've got this call edited, I made a call to the evaluation tribunal and actually asked them this question. I say, you're independent then? They said, yes. I said, well, who pays you? What created you? And they admitted, well, it was Parliament. It was done under an Act of Parliament, and they're ultimately paid by the Crown. I said, oh, so isn't the council who's coming after me for this council tax an agency of the Crown? They said, yeah. So I said, you'd agree then that this money's being collected on behalf of the Crown via the council? And they said, yeah. I said, right. So you're an agency of the Crown, aren't you? They went, yeah. They admitted that. So how does that not constitute a conflict of interest? And as you can imagine, that was, quite a funny conversation, and they couldn't answer. They were trying to wriggle the way out of that any way they could, but that's the point I made. It still ultimately comes back to that. It doesn't matter if it's done through a private company, and all this nonsense about these people claiming they're private, rubbish. They're all agencies of the Crown.
And doesn't that catch them off guard too? We come in with those kinds of questions.
Oh, it does.
I think it throws, and it's like they're just used to the puppy mill, with the currency flowing, and then all of a sudden you have someone asking for facts when all they do is apply a code and, you flex their muscles and make you pay. And, so yeah, it throws them back. And I think that's where you get all these emotions from. I think Mark, most of his, calls of shame, you can hear the emotion, I've been doing this for 30 years type thing, quote unquote, and I've never heard these questions before. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the one they come at you with when you come at them with that, so you're not independent. And so, we're independent of the council. We've got nothing to do with the council. And I say, well, yeah, that's fair enough. You're not, you called a different department, but you're still an agency of the state. You're both paid by the same boss.
That's if you want to label yourself a public servant, then serve me. Yeah, I'm the public. If you want me to pretend that way, because you can throw it back at them that way too. But I prefer not to. That's kind of the free man side of it. If you want to call me a
that's
citizen.
what I'll come at them with. It's you're both paid by the same boss. There's the connection. I'm not disputing the fact that you've both got different names. One's called an appeals. You're called the appeals service, and they're called a council. Yeah, fair enough.
Right. That's not your argument.
You work in separate buildings, and do things differently in that sense. Fair enough. You're independent from each other in that respect, but your paychecks come from the same boss.
Exactly. I was just going to say that your paychecks come from the same. The letterheads is the same on your paychecks, regardless of what department you're in.
A piece of paper called an act or a statute created by that boss created the council, and it also created you. But you're somehow claiming that you're independent. Well, you're not independent of that same boss, are you? And that's the point I'm making. That's what you concentrate on. So,
another good point too is that it's a conflict in their income. So them thinking rationally and being asked these questions conflicts. Well, oh my God, this is my this
exactly.
is my living. They have to defend that check, their paycheck, and I understand.
Exactly,
so do I.
That paycheck comes from the taxes, the very taxes that get collected by the council and every other agency that links it.
If that's where it
without
goes,
it, they wouldn't be in a job, would they? Yeah.
Yeah, again, they got to defend their, they got a house and mortgage to pay just like the rest of us, and I think that's another part of their emotion when you ask these questions too. I mean, they'll go to the end of the earth to defend, and so would you and I, to defend our castle and our income and living, and our happiness is the way it's going now. So they're defending that too. So it's quite an experience.
It gets. Well, it's the thing. This is how they play people. They say you mind control people. You do it on emotions. You don't do it on logic. You don't want that part of their brain kicking in. You got to do it on their emotions. People act on their emotions far quicker than they will their logic. Is that, what I'm saying.
The morals override the code.
Yeah, that's right.
And everybody.
And someone was saying to me about, do you have an opinion or comment on the UCT? I can't remember what that is offhand. UCT, anyone can remind me? You could actually
here in Canada, it's UCC.
UCC, yeah. I think that's the Universal Commercial Code or whatever in it. So
right.
Universal Commercial Code, it's just I don't play with all that. That's just free man stuff again. And
it's complicated.
The thing is, where the facts are proved, it applies.
It's complicated. Even if it's there,
yeah, all right, it's all good to play, but it says so. Where the facts are proved, it applies. Oh, it's a trust, the UCT, Universal Commercial Trust, I think it's called, isn't it? Something like that.
Community Trust.
Universal Community.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that a few groups have set up, and for them, I think it's a good thing what they're trying to do, but to try and play it in the legal arena, they're not going to have it. They're not going to, you took this into court and tried to protect your property under it. They're just not going to listen. They don't care. So this is the thing. I can understand what people are doing, and it makes a lot of sense. But the problem is it has to be grounded, or it's founded on their system still, on their flawed legal system, and that's the problem. Because the legal system on which it's got to operate is fundamentally isn't legitimate in and of itself. That kind of flaws anyone coming up saying, "Well, I've got a trust." Because it can't be valid, because the system it has to be based on isn't valid itself. So that And that's why the free man concepts as well, and the trust law stuff, Dean Clifford and all this stuff that I keep coming out with, is fundamentally flawed as well, because the system on which it's based has no legitimacy. And the reason it's not legitimate is because you're forced to support government. It's not valid. It's not voluntary. It's compulsory that you support it. So how can something be valid and legitimate when you're forced, whether you want it or not, to pay for it? And there goes one of the many flaws in the legal system. And that is the main flaw of government itself.
Yeah, and I think that's what the masses fail to see, to see that conflict of interest. Maybe in the back of their minds they neglect the abuse or the gun in the room and just pay. It's the best mind F in human history.
Exactly, and the thing is with these trusts is, again, you're just giving an opinion that you created something fictional out of thin air. Well, I don't care what your opinion is. We've got all the guns. We don't care what you say. It's what we say that matters. So you don't get a say in it whether you created a trust or not, or whether you think you've created a trust, whether you think you've created something that you can use as a barrier, a form of protection, protect the property and all that. So there you go. So I mean, that's fundamentally flawed. I'm not saying what they're doing is wrong or stupid, but that's the point. The people you're going to try and use it against to say that this thing, this fictional thing called a trust exists, it's just your opinion. And if they don't want to believe it, if they don't want to go along with it, and claim, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, it's funny. And at the same time, Vin, they run as a business.
Exactly.
Right?
You can't force me to believe that trust exists. You can say it exists. You can show me all the paperwork you like. At the end of the day, all those bits of paper say is this is your opinion. This is your opinion that this thing exists. And it only exists in your mind. It only exists in your head. And if it doesn't exist in the head of the people who you're trying to use this against, well then you're completely buggered. Nothing you can do about it. And so, someone brought up...
Sure, take the lines off the map of North America, and what do you have?
Exactly.
What do you have? Right? You'd be lost if you really didn't know where those lines were. And say you didn't know what those lines were and never did, and then you looked at the continent of North America, and there's no boundaries. It's all one big, open, lovely landscape.
But what about the roads?
I was waiting for that. That had to be asked, I'm sure.
Who's going to build the roads?
People will.
And trusts and everything else,
My friends will. They have front end loaders. They have, I know, all kinds of final grade. Everything but the tarmac.
roads
people
get built
will do it.
They've always been
That's
built.
who does it now.
Yeah.
It's just, and again, let's go back to third-party contracts. The government hires third-party contractors, private contractors to do the work, and the lowest bid gets the job. I've bidded on flooring jobs in municipal buildings, and I didn't get them because my price wasn't low enough. So.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's all they do. They're just these people who call themselves government, who allegedly, provide these services, do nothing more than just act as a sort of middle, just a management company to franchise out the services. They claim they're the ones that are going to provide it. They don't. They just give it out to a private company, and yet they claim, well, we're the ones providing the services.
Exactly. That's right. Yep.
And that isn't what they do. They just act as a management company. They say, well, who's going to get lowest bidder gets the job. And it's just so they can say, see, we're providing you with these services. So you're giving us these taxes, and we're giving you the roads. So what you're moaning about, sort of thing.
but even that, and if you're getting the lowest price, are you getting the most professional job?
Exactly. Yeah.
If you're cutting price, is it to code? Should I dare say that?
Exactly, yeah, we're getting the bare minimum service they'll dare provide us and get away with, same as the hospitals and everything else, and then turn around and pocket the rest of themselves. But if people moan about that, so but you've got your roads, you've got your hospitals, they're providing these services for you. Yeah. Sorry, Jay, did you want to jump in there, mate?
Yeah, Speedy, you got anything to say? Just kidding.
Oh, I think he's probably having trouble with his mic himself. I know he was trying to say something a minute ago. Oh. But yeah, I mean that's the thing. These so-called services that the government provide that we're forced to pay for, we get the bare minimum service. Yeah, we get the lowest bidder. We get a bare minimum service just so they can turn and say, "See, we're providing this for you." You get in your police, you get in your NHS and all that. But where does the rest of the money go? If they actually spent every penny paying for the services that they claim they're meant to be providing, then yeah, we won't have anything like these problems that we have now. Nobody would have to, be stuck on a trolley in a corridor in an hospital because there ain't enough doctors to treat them and whatnot. We wouldn't have all these problems if they put the money into where they put every single penny into where they claim it's meant to really be going into, and not pocketing the rest for themselves. And that's obviously what's going. They are running it as a business, as a corporation, as such. I do get that they're doing that. That's obvious. But yeah, they certainly can. They're not what they're claiming to be. We all know that anyway.
And running as a business is a conflict of interest too. I mean, here in Canada, it's the Crown.
Yeah.
The Crown, if they're running as a business, oh my goodness, I mean, aren't they just supposed to be, looking after the people? Of course, that's a fallacy.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, they register themselves as corporations and all that, but then for it to be a proper business, a proper private business as such, apparently they're meant to have, what's it called, documents of incorporation and all this sort of thing, and mysteriously, these documents don't really exist, and yet they do register themselves as if they're private companies. And this is what people jump on and give it.
The community I live in, Vin, they say it right on my water bill. The corporation of the town of Georgina. There's no secrets here. So,
yeah,
okay, I get it. Obviously.
Let's say, for example, they didn't do that. Let's say they did sort of try and palm themselves across as being, valid and legitimate and all that, and they didn't register themselves as private companies and corporations. That still won't make them any more valid. That won't make them any more legitimate as a government. So it doesn't matter whether they register themselves as private corporations or not, or they're actually just trying to put themselves across as a legitimate, agency as such. Public servants and whatnot. Doesn't mean a thing. It doesn't change the fundamental nature of what they are. What created them.
Right. Yeah.
They're never legitimate to begin with. So it doesn't matter how they go about doing it. What nonsense they create in terms of, we're going to create all these bits of paper and claim that we're a corporation or a private business and all that. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what they do. Makes absolutely no bleeding difference. So there you go.
That's right. It's irrelevant to getting a fair trial. Exactly.
Yeah. Some people talking about, the UK is a corporation and all that. Well, the UK is a piece of paper, the United Kingdom. The Acts of Union and all the other acts that came after that, if you want to call it anything.
Yeah, the Constitution, whether it be Canadian or US.
That's it, yeah, that's what it factually is.
It was written by the group of people, 200 years ago or whatever, and it died with them.
Yeah.
It died with them.
It was just an idea, a concept in their head. That was it. And people have carried it on to this generation, hundreds of years later, and believe it to be real. That's the problem.
Yeah, the fallacy.
Yeah, exactly. Who is the CEO of Australia Corporation? I haven't got a clue. It's probably a man or a woman. That's probably about.
Good answer, Vin.
Probably bang on the money. But yeah, I mean, how can somebody
be being politically correct?
The CEO of Australia? It's a landmass full of people.
That's right. I think the Crown represents Australia. Is that correct? UK, Canada.
Yeah.
The Crown. The Crown.
There's a few that claims to have control. But
at my trial, I had my transcripts, and it read, of course, O'Brien versus the Crown. And when I went to the appeal, as a joke, just to lighten the room up a bit, I says, I get a chance to meet the Queen today. Is she going to be here? And I swear, the whole place laughed. All of them. The snotty prosecutor and the rest of them all laughed. And it's like, okay, so we get it, we get this as a joke, so let's all just go home. You freaks. Sorry.
Mm. Yeah, someone's put up, it's the Queen apparently. The CEO of Australia is the Queen. So, fair enough. But,
but Dean Clifford will tell you it should be Queen Elizabeth II or third.
Yeah, or is it the Corporation
Sorry, I'm being sarcastic.
of London? Is it the Corporation of London? Yeah,
he wants protection from, an obligation, with an obligation to allegiance. Dean Clifford, obligation to allegiance, he wants protection. Well, okay, then they'll just put you in a cage and that'll protect you from everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I was
being sarcastic again, sorry.
It's alright. But, it's, one of these things with him where I've heard him talk on some of these shows where one minute he's turning around saying, your laws have got nothing to do with me, and then the next minute he's turning around saying, well, under the Constitution, you're not allowed to do this and do that. And it's like, you can't have it both ways. You can't, on the one hand, say these laws don't apply to you, and then the next minute start barking they're not, behaving themselves because they're breaching the
conflict of interest.
Yeah, one minute the Constitution
open mouth
applies
insert
to you, but
foot.
the next minute the laws don't. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a nonsense, a lot of the stuff that I've heard him talking about. And I mean, he was giving a talk, doing another radio interview a little while back. Somebody sent me a link. I listened to about 15 minutes of it, and I just had enough. I turned it off because, I mean, I'm sorry, but I thought he was talking complete nonsense. And someone else sent him a message about, or was asking a question about that video, the one where the judge allegedly bowed to the sovereign and all that stuff.
No, I haven't heard that.
Oh, look up just Google it or whatever, YouTube it. Freeman bows or Judge bows to Freeman, something like that. It's some stupid name they give it like that. And it's where a judge gets up to lead court, and this silly thing they do where they sort of bow to the middle of the room or whatever. He did that, and they just wanted to jump on that bandwagon and claim, oh well, there you go, this was the judge submitting to the sovereign, and this Freeman who was standing in front of him and all that. And it's like, what a load of old codswallop, even in this country. Or right, this isn't a country. That's
my phone. Sorry.
That's all right, mate.
Sorry, forgive me.
Oh, I love the music, mate. But that's
it's my ringtone, baby. Sorry.
That's all right. I've even seen them do it over in this country. I've seen it with like clerks of the court and all that. When they leave and the magistrates, they'll turn back before they get to the door and they're about to go into the back room or whatever, or before they're allowed, or before they leave the front of the court. If they go in, leave through the entrance, us minions are pulled through. They turn around and bow to the court. Bow to the room as such. And it's just bugger knows why they do it. It's obviously some stupid, traditional, bloody, dogmatic nonsense, but this is what they do. And it's got nothing to do with, oh yes, that's it, we're bowing to you sovereigns, and, we're showing that you're more powerful than us and all this codswallop. It's complete nonsense. And it's just one of these silly little traditions or whatever they've got. Dogmatic traditions. And, that's all it was. But I remember Dean Clifford turning around and giving, oh yes, that judge, was submitting to him and what he was saying and everything else. And it's like, no, you're talking complete bloody nonsense. That isn't what happened, and that isn't what you've jumped. Fair enough, you do see.
Just quickly run up into my shop before I get ready to do my hair and get dressed.
Okay.
Because I can't wear garments.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Hello.
We could hear you. Then you're live on the radio. Oh, scared her off. Oh, she's gone. But yeah. So I was saying when I was listening to that, and he started going off into one about that video that allegedly proves all this. That was it. I'd had enough. Turned it off, and I'd heard enough already for that one. So, like I say, you hear a lot of nonsense of these people throwing stuff about, and you've got to start listening to what they're saying, because a lot of this stuff, especially what I've noticed Dean Clifford do a lot of, is they're always playing on people's emotions. It's all about getting you rolled up and making you think, yeah, we've got power over the government, we can do this, they need our consent, and all this codswallop. And it's just to get you fired up. They're playing on your emotions. They're not playing on your logic. They're not making you that logical part of your brain kick in and start, engage in a proper thought process. It plays on your emotions all the time. It's all about getting you fired up and making you feel there's hope, there's remedy solutions, and we can beat them and we can take them on because, we're the ones that control them. They're not the ones who control us and all that. And like I say, it's all mind games, and it's all an appeal to emotion and not to logic. And that's what you've got to notice what these people are doing. Whether they realise they're doing it themselves, just because they want to believe it themselves, that's probably what's got, more of what's going on than not. But, you've got to be able to start spotting this. You've essentially got to become Dr. Spock and stop. It's not logical, Jim. You've got to let that part of your brain kick in and start, making sense of what's really being said. Like that video I was telling, that website I was telling people to look up, logicalfallacies.com. Just watch that video with Barack Obama. A 20-minute speech, and they point out almost 90, at 87, it's almost 90 logical fallacies he comes out with, and most of them are all just an appeal to emotion. It's all to play, it's all to tug on the heartstrings and get you feeling patriotic and everything else, And the truth is, he was just talking complete bloody nonsense. But it took, a video like that helps point it out. And you start doing that in everyday life, and especially when you're dealing with courts and everything else, and bureaucrats, and you'll actually start to spot it, what they're doing and when they're saying it. That's brilliant.
Yeah, you mentioned applying it to your private life, too.
That's right, yeah. It does, yeah.
Relationships
you start
with
just
friends.
what a madhouse the world is.
Yeah, that's what some days you get frustrated, and like Mark hits the hard bag. And there must be some kind of release somewhere. With me, it's going very fast on my motorcycle or something, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, because some days are tougher than others, and some days just slide through, and it's like, look at what we're up against, and it's like you feel like you're standing there all by yourself, the only one with any rational thought in your community, out of everyone around you, it's sometimes it gets tough some days. So I called it a reprogramming of my mind.
Mm.
You had to reprogram yourself because you weren't like that before. You were all sleepy and zombied. And then we all woke up and started asking for facts, and our accuser, we're asking the accuser for the proof that we've done any damages or owe any money. So
yeah,
I'm off.
that's it. I mean, it is difficult to deal with these people. You can't do it day in, day out, and you can't. This stuff does get sicker after a while. You have to you have to take a break from it, and you have to.
Agreed. Yeah.
Chill out from it. And yeah, I mean, it's like in your everyday life, even just people talking normally around you, you start to pick up on the fact that, you start to pick up on all the logical fallacies people use all the time.
Yes. And you bite your tongue because you don't want to correct them because, they're your friend.
You can let that go, yeah. But that's the thing, you can let that go. But when you're dealing with a bureaucrat, you don't give them an inch.
Gosh, no. Nope.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you gotta ask them,
you got to wait them up.
I mean, I have
Sorry.
I have a little story there about my mortgage, and there was a third party to my mortgage, let's just say, in short, and I called them up and asked them, are you third party to this mortgage, and some kind of fee you're charging? And the woman says, well, you're a lawyer, and I says, how is that relevant to my property? I'm asking you, are you third party to the loan to the bank that my mortgage is at?
Yeah.
Well, you're going to have to call the legal department at the bank. So I'm working on that. I haven't had a chance yet. I want to record that, so I want a good session maybe this week. I'm going to confront the mortgage part of my house, and
so you had a mortgage with one company, and they've passed it over to another company's take.
It was to do with a property management service, because I'm going to say I was in the rears. It's embarrassing to say, but I was in the rears, and there's a property management letter on my door that to make sure somebody was even here, I guess, to check to see if somebody was alive and, who owned that mortgage.
Yeah.
And they're a private company outside the bank, and the bank hires them, and she admitted that the bank hires us. Okay, so that's when I asked her, and she thought I was a lawyer. I said, well, how is that relevant to me asking about property, whether I'm a lawyer or not?
Mm.
So my next question is to the legal department, and I'm going to ask whoever I'm talking to if they're a member of the bar. And you know what that's going to start.
Yeah.
You know what that's going to start. And then, of course, I'm going to ask for the mechanics of the loan, where they got the loan from. When, I've had this conversation before, and it's created by my signature. Okay, well, my signature will zero it then. It's not that easy, but if that's what you're talking about, then where is the meeting of the minds in the contract? Where do you actually get the money from? Yeah. And that money must come from, whether it be the reserve, the reserve there in the States, Federal Reserve, or in Canada, it's the Bank of Canada. All loans are created from that, and anything beyond that is fraud. The money must come from the Bank of Canada. So
banks will create out of fraud, blimey.
Well, and that's correct. That's correct. Every deposit they make 9%, and they can create 9 more loans from each deposit, whether it be $100 or $10. Yeah. That's why they boast how well they did each sector. Oh, we made profits here and there. Of course, they constantly make profits. If their deposits are down, they're not making loans. So if they're creating loans without, in a third party sense, not from the Bank of Canada or the Reserve, mm-hmm. then that's misconduct. So
yeah. Well, someone's just put up in the chat room the corporations masquerading as government in Australia and worldwide. Well, governments corporations masking as governments. Governments are masquerading as the people who masquerade themselves as government are nothing of the sort. They're not a government. Well, they are a government in the sense of it's all mind control. But
it's all theatre. That's right.
Yeah, even the people who call themselves government aren't legitimate, so they're masquerading just as much as a private corporation might be masquerading.
Yeah, and they're admitting they aren't even qualified. They admit they're not qualified on record.
I remember watching that video. It is a good video. I mean, the bloke has done a lot of research, and he's done really well, I think. But I saw the video of that bloke in Australia, the issue over the car, where he was trying to import a car, wasn't he? And he couldn't do it because it turns out this company was trying to nick money off him. And when he looked into it, turns out they're a private.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, they're a private business from.
Cost them $30,000 or something to get it. Yeah. Finally get it, cost them 30 grand or something ridiculous.
To be government themselves aren't legitimate, so there's no point jumping on it and giving it, well, you've got one legitimate body there and now you've got an illegitimate body pretending to be the legitimate one. Neither of them are legitimate, period. So, that's the point. I could see what he was doing and what he was saying, but, like I say, it's an issue of either people who call themselves government, they're not valid to begin with. No, there never was. We don't have a government. We have a group of people who call themselves government. And it's nothing more than that. It's just a group of people. And they're not there by any legitimate means. And they're not there by...
Break in?
Sorry, mate?
I said, can I break in a second?
Yeah, sure, mate.
I just sent that doc in the chat. And I just sent that off to my mortgage company, certified. Well, I got it notarized in certified mail to get a response from them because they just sold my mortgage to another company, and I'm seeing if they're going to produce the documents to. It says in my covenants that they can do it, but even at that, I talked to Mark and he said that usually they violate it in some way. So I just sent that off this week and I'll keep you guys posted on what happens with it.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah. I can't download it off this at the moment. Well, you'll have to send it to me privately. so I can have a look at it. But yeah, I mean, this is something we're still looking into in this country. There's a lot of groups that are trying to deal with this, dealing with mortgages. We had one particular fella take it all the way to the I think it was the Supreme Court, or at least the High Court, and he had them over a barrel. He had it proved beyond any doubt that, you know, mortgages are invalid. You know, he threw all the legal paperwork at him he could, and even using stuff out of statutes, and, you know, and he proved it. You know, none of this is valid. But the judge basically said, well, yep, you're absolutely right, I can't fault your case, but I can't let you win, because this would just turn the entire system upside down.
Wow. He
said, so, yeah, we know I can't fault your you know, I can't fault your case, can't fault your claim, but I just can't let you win. The judge actually said that to him, got him in chambers privately and told that to him. So that's what you're up against. You know, that's what we're up against. And maybe on an individual level, when you take on these cases, yeah, and you put them in such a sticky situation where, but I mean, that particular case that I was just telling you about, the chap that pulled that off, he did come at it from the point of view of he was bringing a legal argument. He wasn't going after the facts with all of it. You know, it wasn't just a factual thing that he was bringing forward and proving it. It was all based on a lot of legal argument as well. And like I say, the judge did agree with him, you know, even based on that. So, you know, it was the facts and the legal opinion. You know, he had them stuffed on as such, or at least I suppose he put it across in a sense where, yeah, it was totally contradictory, whichever way you looked at it. But that's what the judge said to him. So he couldn't win it. But yeah, dealing with it on an individual basis, they may well, if you get them in a sticky enough situation where they just can't make this look good, then yeah, they'll probably drop a case against you. And that's what they did with who's the fella that just recently had a, I think it was a credit card case, wasn't it? And the bank, or the young people representing the bank, actually admitted, yeah, we never lent you any money. It was paper for paper, basically. And they actually admitted this. And I think the judge on the second hearing, that they tried to sue him again, yeah, for a second time. Yeah, the judge wouldn't have it and threw the case out. Based on, I think, pretty much, excuse me, based on that addition.
Somebody needs that.
Yeah. Oh, I've got that now, thanks. I'll just download it.
You can get what I posted there at DTax Canada. It's called the 5 letters. That's what I was using. I just put in my own words, though. What I posted in the chat there.
Okay, so yeah, Annan's just sent something here. Hang on, I'll just read it. You're acting on the presumption that some relationships that may have with the name, the bank, is in some way related to me, which if such a presumption in this case, I confirm that I am not a party to this implied relationship you have with the name, the bank, either directly, indirectly, or by means of tacit agreement, and accordingly I do not understand how to respond to you inasmuch as I am unaware of any contractual relationship between us. Well, we just go after the facts, show the facts proving there's a meeting of the minds. Prove there was ever a meeting of the minds, show the facts. You can show that I put my signature on a bit of paper. You know, you can prove that happened. You can prove that there was you can show the bits of paper, bring them forward as evidence, but it does not prove there was a meeting of the minds, and that means that did the bank ever bring forward all the elements, knowing exactly, so you knew exactly where that money was coming from and who was actually funding it, whose money funded that loan? Did they ever bring that forward and let you know that? They're letting you believe on an assumption that it was the bank that then gave you their loans, but the truth is that's not really what happened. They never gave you full disclosure. So there was never a valid, there was never a proper meeting of the minds. Because you never really knew what you was getting into. You never really knew who was lending you money or where the funds were coming from. That's what they kept hidden from you. So, yeah, that's why we challenge it just on those grounds alone. I'm just trying to catch up with the thing is, yeah, but if you look on Awake Radio on our chat thingy, you know, he's added bits in there. But I remember a few years back when I was first fighting my Mark case, I did end up sending them quite a lengthy letter, about 8 or 10 pages, just throwing a lot of this stuff at them about, you know, where did the money come from, who funded the loan, and I borrowed bits and pieces out of other letters that I'd seen, and I put together, you know, quite a lengthy letter. They wouldn't answer none of it, of course. And I even had a letter back from the solicitors that were representing the bank saying, yes, we've read your letter, but we're just not going to respond to it. And wouldn't give me no reasons why. And when I actually brought this up in court, judge didn't want to know. So, I mean, on that particular day, I was ill for about 2 weeks. I was actually quite poorly. So I wasn't in the best frame of mind to actually be in there that day fighting.
I mean, so if you're not going to respond to it, then it doesn't exist, and nor does this case, so we'll see if, you know, have a great evening.
Yeah, and I actually brought the issue up when I was in there, because this judge was particularly nasty, as a lot of them can be, and I just brought up the issue of saying, well, what's the nature and basis of the relationship between you and the claimant? And he said, well, this is bordering on contempt, yada, 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 and off he went, and I said, well, you know, what's going on here? And he went, well, I'll tell you what the answer to that question is. Absolutely none. There is no relationship going on. I said, why the hell do you care whether I owe money or not then?
Nice. Very, very nice.
Obviously couldn't answer, could he? And, you know, he's got off into his speech again. You know, this is bordering on contempt and all that, you know. This case is over with.
All the threats, yeah, of containment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's what happened in that case. But, yeah, and then I was due to go back a couple of days later to fight it in front of, you know, another circuit judge or something, you know. But I was too ill, couldn't do it in the end, and like I say, I weighed up the pros and cons of whether it was worth actually carrying on the fight or not, so I decided not to.
Well, that's a good point, because property tax here, where I live in Canada, here in Ontario, they have a third party called MPAC. I don't know the hell they pronounce what it means. I could look it up, but they're a third party to the corporation of the town of Georgina. So the town of Georgina collects the taxes, but they have a third party determining how much your taxes are going to be. And then when you do call them, they say, well, that determines on the market. Well, you don't undercut yourself, do you? You know, I mean, their property values have gone up, so your taxes have to go up. You know, or they say, don't undercut yourself because the market value has gone up, so the property value has gone up. So in accordance, they say, oh no, it won't necessarily mean your taxes will go up, but they go up every year. Of course they lie to you. So my point is I have a third party MPAC who determines my property taxes, that I pay the council, or that I pay the town of Georgina, right? So third party doing dirty work, and it's like, well, then talk to then you know, if I ask empirical proof, then they say, oh, you better talk to the town of Georgina, you know, the council. And it's like, and of course you get that back and forth, jumping through hoops. Nobody wants, you know, you're the hot potato or the tar baby, you know, then nobody wants to touch you. You start asking for empirical proof that the code applies, and none of them can answer it, or they admit that they're not qualified, and it does get frustrating. But you press on, and then, like you say, you break it down. The food chain, Mark goes up the food chain, he says. That's how I do it. And, you know, I've had first-hand experience with Mark in handling the CRA, and that's what we did, process of elimination. It's like troubleshooting a car, troubleshooting your computer. Process of elimination. We go up the chain. If they're not qualified and they admit that they're not, then, well, you know, who pays? Well, is your supervisor available? Well, I don't have a supervisor. You're as high as you can go, and that's in one of the college shames. You know, but at the end of the college shame, he's like, well, yeah. Well, who pays you? Mark says, and well, okay, well, here's a supervisor. You'll have to contact him personally. So there's defeat on his, you know, his cause or whatever he thinks he's doing, but. Yeah, you got to go up the food chain, because the pecking order, because if you're getting, you know, people who are not qualified and admitting that they're not, then, well, we have to go to someone who is, and until we get a resolve, and we get my questions answered.
That was the attitude we got from this woman, you know, this new manager that I'm having to deal with at Capita. when we made the call and said, well, can we speak to your supervisor, your manager, or whatever, she was sort of like, well, this is as high as it can go, sort of thing. And it was like, well, who's your boss? And reluctantly, she ended up sort of giving us a name and number. But, her attitude was, well, this is as high as it can possibly go.
Right, her ego is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when she tells her friends and all, when she's at parties going, oh, well, I'm head of this, and I am head steward, or you know what, I can F people right up, and I can destroy their lives and put them on the street, and I can, here, try this new wine I got because I got a raise.
Yeah, but it's this is what a lot of them can be like. And yeah, I mean, when you do start to go up the chain and you start asking that question, well, put me to the one above you, they really don't like that. It's because they don't like to feel that there's someone above them, sort of thing. They don't like you going
right.
over their head.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's right. You're going over that's right. I've been doing this for 30 years. But I can't answer your question. There's nothing here in the code that's going to answer your question. I know. Oh, and I've heard. Oh, I know whatever answer I give you, Mark. You'll know you won't be satisfied with the answer.
Yeah, I've had them say the same thing to me. Yeah, whatever evidence we've given you, you just won't accept it. It's like
that's right.
It's not I won't accept it. You're not giving me anything that counts as evidence.
Yeah, accept. Yeah, exactly. Oh man. So
I mean, it doesn't help knowing the answers to the questions to begin with, and watching them.
Again, like you said earlier, how can I give you a plea if you haven't even given me discovery to question? You haven't even given me evidence to question or the liability to question. So get it on the table and we'll sort it out. Until then,
it's like watching a load of blind mice trying to find the cheese, and you can see it and they can't, and it's
or they see it but they don't want it because it's spoiled.
Yeah. But it's that's the insane bit about it, I suppose. It's the fact that it's because you can't. It's not your job to give them the answers, even though you know the answers to these questions. They've got to know them. That's the point you're making.
Right,
I've had this with them sometimes, where they start saying, well, what do you mean by facts and what do you mean by this and all that? And it's like, well, you tell me what you want, what you'll accept as evidence, and it's like. Well, look, I already know the answers to these questions, but I'm not telling you.
Right, I'm not going to do your job
yourself.
for you.
It's not a matter of whether I know or not. It's a matter of whether you know. You're the people coming after me for the money.
You're making the claim. Give me the proof that what your claim. Give me the proof that the code applies. Never mind what your statute you're
Because then they
forward.
just, well, you don't know. You don't know the answer yourself. Then, well, no, yes, I bloody do. I'm helping you. It doesn't matter whether I know. And if I give you the answer,
if I give you the answer, you're going to be overqualified. Okay.
But if I give you the answer, you're going to say no, that's wrong, and you won't agree with me. So it's like, well, we'll deal with that in court. I mean, it did get to a point where I was dealing with the other chap at the council. I did actually go through a lot of this stuff with him. I said, well, come on and tell me factually what the law is. Well, the law is a law and all that. And I'm like, no, it ain't. You can't define something by itself. Do you want me to tell you what it is? And then when I came out with, well, it's just an opinion. It's an opinion of a, man or a woman or some group of people called legislators. It's a man or a woman who wears a funny wig and costume. Funny wig and dress.
Cross-dressed and wig wearing.
I said, that's what the law is. Would you agree with me on that? And it did come around to the point where he was like, well, yeah, okay, I'll accept that. That's true, obviously, sort of thing. But then he still couldn't get around the fact that, well, come on in. Well, now we've established that. Now you've got to show facts to prove that opinion applies to me. And he couldn't. So that was the thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not giving these people, that pass because even if you tell them what it is factually, they'll still want to fight you with it because they still have the opinion, oh, we're right, you're wrong, sort of things. That doesn't matter what you say, even when you point the facts out to them plain as day. They're not going to have it. They're not going to believe you because it's you. It's you and not them, and they're the ones who are infallible. You're not, sort of thing. So it's. And that's the only way you can play it. That's the only way you can use it against them because, the truth doesn't contradict, but even when you point it out to them, they're going to want to try and contradict it and claim that you're the one who's wrong. When obviously you're not. When you can, you can prove it. You can prove you're not wrong.
Yeah, and and those kind of things to throw you off point too, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Completely.
Because that's the thing. They'll try and come back with some nutty, irrational answer to that to try and counter it when you're back in court. And you don't have time wasted like that.
I'm sorry, just reflecting on watching them squirm in my experience, and that was in 2010.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to get pulled over with a dated sticker, and the cop's going to say, "Well, everyone's supposed to have one." I says, "Well, not me, because the Crown told me I was free to not to have one, because I got charged for it in the first place, and the Crown and the prosecution had the trial without me. So, go talk to the Crown. They're the one, or it's the one that says I don't need a sticker, right?" So I'm 6 months in without a sticker, and just avoiding the cops just to do business. But one day it may catch up with me, and I'll be ready. I'll just have to do the process again. And if the cop, I don't know how it'll work with the cop, me saying that, if he's going to let me go, or if he's going to charge me. Well, I prefer, if he's not going to let me go, I'll take the tickets. Just don't steal my vehicle. That is my worst fear, because that's my livelihood, and I'm using, I'm teetering on the code and having my livelihood there at the same time. So that is my only fear, and I don't think they will, because I'm going to admit there isn't any other, there's really no documents to that vehicle except for the ownership. I'm not going to say anything else to incriminate myself, but that's civil disobedience? No, that's because apparently your system says I don't need a sticker, because I have the transcripts here to prove it.
Use it against them for as long as you get
Yeah,
one.
But this is on the side of the road, right? That's different.
Oh yeah, I know. That's
so. Anyway,
you're not going to get someone willing to. Well, you're very rarely going to get a cop or wanting to take any notice of that.
Well, yeah, and it's like, and then it's like you're going to get that question. What are you, a lawyer? Are you a lawyer? No, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a man, and just carrying on.
Do they use that term, a lawyer, or do they use attorney or?
You call the lawyer a lot for some reason.
But I just want to pick up on this. Someone saying if you are the legal owner of your property, then why do you have to pay property tax? Well,
that's a very, very good question. Excellent question.
Because it's an opinion. Legal owner is a political stamp, label. So, then why do you have to put? Well, it's somebody else's opinion. That's why, and you're forced to. It's not because there's any real obligation there. It's simply based off the back of somebody else's opinion. That's it. That's how this all works. And that's what we're desperately trying to show people, and make obvious to them. But what is it? Right? If you register the property with the land registry in the UK, that body politic, that thing that only exists in your head, you're basically handing over ownership of your property to them. Well, no, not really. And again, that's all just opinion. It's not fact. But it's their opinion. I mean, granted, the bureaucrats, that is their opinion as such. That you're handing over something to them. But then again, how can you hand something over to them that they claimed was already theirs anyway? The Crown claims, allegedly, the legal opinion is the Crown owns everything, has complete dominion over the land.
It's a good point, because
so how can you turn around and say register
here? They call it Crown land. Like if national parks here in Canada, they call it Crown land. Well, you're on Crown land, so jurisdiction applies because we said so.
So she's the claim is she owns everything. I mean, there's even a citation from the American courts in there, from Congress, where they basically state that all property is by virtue of the ownership of all property is by virtue and basically on the whim of Congress, sort of thing. So you don't own the shirt on your back as far as they're concerned. That you own it by their grace, by their whim and opinion. And they can take it away from you any time they like. And that's
that's right. It's a privilege.
That's pretty much the same attitude this side of the pond as well. Apparently, the Queen owns everything. Everything. It's not just the land.
That's right.
Everything. They own you and you know, the shirt on your back. And
they own your firstborn. Yeah.
Yeah. And if she wants to take it from you, then apparently allegedly she's got the right to do it. So how can you register something and then hand over ownership? A claim to own it in the first place. There's nothing to register. There's nothing to hand over. And again, it's just all political nonsense, and it's just all legal opinion. It's just all opinion. Doesn't matter if you call it legal opinion or
political rhetoric. That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's all it is. So you know, again, a lot of that is all. A flawed argument. You know, when people start saying all this stuff about, you know, when you register your car with a DVLA, now you're giving ownership of the car and you're only the legal owner and not or you're the legal keeper and not the owner and all this crap. It's nonsense. You know, that cow claims to own it all anyway, regardless. So how can you be handing something? You know, 1 minute you don't own it, next minute you do own it, or you can own it but not own it at the same time. It's like, oh, give me a break, for crying out loud. You know what I mean?
Of course. Again, I'm going to pick out the conflict of interest there.
Yeah.
It's double talk. I mean, how can you? It's so ridiculous. And of course, it f's with a rational mind, so the mind can't think rationally anymore, and it's completely off point asking for any evidence, or factual or empirical evidence that any of you that applies.
This is why they say thinking is the hardest to do in the world. Because, you know, when you've got that sort of nonsense thrown at you, it's like, yeah, forget it. I'm not even going to think about this anymore. Let's just get on, you know, just get on with things. Just let me sit in the office and type nonsense into computers all day, and you know, I can forget about trying to work that one out, sort of thing. And this is how they get people. This is how they get people, you know, under that level of control, because they make it such a ridiculously complicated system that doesn't make any sense. For someone to actually sit down and work it out would drive them mad. So they don't think. You know, they give up trying to work it out, give up thinking about it. But the truth is, all you've got to turn around and say is it's complete nonsense. Forget it. I haven't got to work it out because there's nothing to work out. It's not rational. Period. That's it. You know, it's all opinion. Once you've traced it back to its ultimate source, it's just somebody else's opinion. It's just all it goes to show, all it goes to prove is just how inventive the human mind can be.
Well, and because they're 4 feet off the ground and wearing that black robe, they, you know, you have to answer to that because they said so, and you know they are a higher authority than you, and they're a better thinker or a higher thinker than you, and of course that's why you pay. You know, if you don't know anything, if you don't know to ask the questions, which of course, you know, our school system didn't raise us that way, nor did our parents even know themselves, and it's not their fault either. So the authority, the scare tactic. Well, because, you know, he's wearing that pinstripe suit and looking really sharp and, you know, puffing their chest out and wearing that robe, you know, they know more than I do. And I should listen and do what they say. So, I think that's changing, I think. And, I think Calvin in No State Project, chat yesterday posted a few things about the unrest in the world. Turkey and, Greece and all that stuff. And I commented, I expect to see more of that because people are starting to question things, and they're starting to, you know, and the Vatican's getting, you know, a lot of negative hype, and you know, I think it's snowballing into a mass awakening, maybe hopefully in our lifetime, but I think like Stephen Molyneux says, maybe it'll take a few generations before that'll happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I look at it. It is a long-term thing. I don't think we can honestly turn it around in our lifetime. But yeah, I mean, we are going to see huge changes throughout.
I think we're going to see unfortunately, more violence.
And
of course, the repression of the state, and they're going to flex their muscles to keep the rest of the world at bay. See, this is what's going to happen to you if you're going to step up.
They're going to screw up. You can just see it coming. So, someone in the government is going to say something stupid or do something stupid, and it's going to open up a huge can of worms.
Stupid. Just watch the news daily, and I'll do. Yeah. You'll pull your hair out watching it now.
Yeah, it could just come out of the blue. Something's going to get mentioned live on telly somewhere, or something like that's going to happen. I mean, obviously the media's too controlled to keep a lot of this stuff, repressed, and D notices are being thrown out left, right, and centre every day all over London, all over the London newspapers. But something's going to happen, something live on telly or whatever. Something is going to happen, and it's going to blow part of this out of water. And it's going to snowball from there. And you can just see it coming. Something like that's going to, and God forbid it's going to be staged and whatever. But I don't think even then it's going to be a staged event, or it's going to be a false flag or whatever. Someone's going to screw up somewhere. Something's going to happen. You can just see
whistleblower.
Yeah.
But that position they have to be in for that to have the effect. And if they're in that position, I think they'll be repressed, or all of a sudden they've suicide, or disappeared. And that's what's saying through history. I think that's what's happening with whistleblowers, is they're being offed. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to mention, have you heard of this People's Choice, the TV station that David Icke and a few others are all getting involved in creating? An actual
No, I haven't heard that. No.
Yeah, look it up. Get it on YouTube. Put in David Icke, People's Choice, and it's an actual TV studio, an actual TV station they're setting up, broadcasting station, and they're going to be running about 6 hours of shows every day. They're going to have a studio in London, apparently, and a studio in America somewhere as well. And they've been raising about, they were trying to raise 100,000 quid. They got that within like a week, raised it, and now they're trying to go for a bit more. They're trying to go for about 300,000 so they can really go to town and get all the equipment they need and really get it going. And they're nearly there. They've nearly raised all the money. So I mean, I'd encourage people to actually get involved in this, and donate a little bit to them and help them get this started. I think what they're doing is brilliant. I mean, I'll be in touch with myself, and I'll try and do my bit to help get this going. And but this is what they're going to do. And who knows? Who knows where it's going to go from there? It's a little bit like the TV station they were getting set up like they had on Sky a little while ago. Was it Edge Media or something like that they were called? And I used to get showings on Sky, didn't I think? But this is going out independently, I think. So
cool.
Let's see what happens. I think what they're trying to do is a really good thing. So see what comes of that. But yeah, look it up on you can't find it on Google at the moment. Because when I was looking it up, it kept coming up People's Choice, but it was all these stupid award things and all that, normal media stuff. But if you put it into Google, just put in David Icke People's Choice, it all comes up and they tell you more about it. They've got a website as all set up now.
I've seen that actually, yeah.
Someone's saying Icke's getting greedy and all that. I mean, at the end of the day, they only went for 100,000 to begin with, as far as I know. They got that quick as anything. So it just goes to show you the people that have woken up to this now, what they're willing to give to do something.
Voluntary donation. Yeah.
And I don't think it's being greedy. It's like, well, Christ, if you can raise it that quick and you can go one better, why not? Why not build it in the even bigger than you originally wanted to do? And good luck on them for doing it.
Is that not a free market in a sense?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, if there's a voluntary donation of what Ike's saying, then if he's getting those voluntary donations, then obviously those people completely agree with what he's saying.
Exactly. Yeah. Any service or product is its worth is determined by the people willing to voluntarily contribute to it, and that's exactly what we're seeing with this. Yeah. So of course, it's obviously something that people want, and they want to be woken up to this, and they want to be part of this. They want to be part of
it's like, do you have a donate button, Finn, on your website?
No, I don't actually. Not at the moment.
Yeah, I would donate $1, a couple bucks, or whatever, because I like what you're doing. Oh. I got a donate button on my site now, and I haven't gotten any donations, but not that I'm out to make a profit, but it just adds to the positive outlook on what the information is there, right?
That's it. Yeah,
people are
I mean,
agreeing and volunteering to it. So.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, I'm going to start making a bit of stuff available soon on the site, which I'll be setting up a shopping cart software package or whatever, so I'll sell a few bits and pieces. And obviously, when Mark gets a new book released as well, I want to sell Mark's book via my site, and that'll help out, so I can make donations to Mark via that. So, yeah, I mean, once I get a little bit more settled myself and I can get the website the way I really want to get it to look, then, I might well add something like that in there. If people are willing to donate and help me along, doing this, that'd be great. So, but yeah, I mean, I'd encourage people to get involved with this thing with David Icke as well. I mean, I know a lot of people might not agree with everything he's done in the past and whatnot, but I think this is really something. This is really big. It's a really good positive thing what we're trying to do. So yeah, I'd encourage people to get involved with it. And support the 10-foot lizards.
On Mark's show on Saturday, a brother in Israel had a ticket dismissed, but he did go through jump through a lot of hoops to have it dismissed. But that's Israel.
Yeah, I heard of that. Was that actually true?
I thought that was epic. Israel. Of all places.
That was a chap that called into Mark's show a little while back, was it?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what,
I forget his name.
Cause I wasn't sure whether this was true or not, and I wanted to confirm it, but if that's true, brilliant. That's great.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. It's a bit difficult to pronounce his name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it Imran or Ariel? I'm not going to try.
Iram?
Don't want to insult him or something, yeah. But, that's I mean, God, Israel of all places. I mean, in terms of
so
the way it's spun over here, what that country's like.
So then it operates the same, no matter where you are on the globe.
Yeah, it turns out the legal system.
It confirms what Mark was saying. Yeah.
But the impression is, they're a hell of a lot more corrupt than we are in that sense, or public relations
violence level.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's fantastic if he could actually get that thrown out and dropped. Christ, yeah, we've got to do better over here now. We've got to start working harder in over this neck of the woods now. But that's great. Yeah, I'm well chuffed. Yeah, well, I did want to check on that because I wasn't 100% whether that story was true or not. So I heard someone mention it, but I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, it's on the podcast. Yeah, he called in.
Oh, brilliant! It's like he calls in to Mark's show pretty soon or this Saturday. Tell us a bit more about it. So I'm definitely going to call into the show this Saturday.
This weekend is the Canada Day long weekend for us here. It's Canada's birthday, everybody. It's a party.
Oh, so it's got a birth certificate and it's going to be cashing in its shares, is it? And all that, but wow, okay. So when was it officially born then? What was the year allegedly?
Oh, I can't remember. It's 150 something years old apparently.
Oh, you're only young then. Christ, we've got.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I pretending to be the state at this point in time?
Yeah, I think you are. Yeah.
So that's of course it's like that's my famous question. What are you proud of? The beaver, maple syrup. What constitutes that you're Canadian, dude? Do you have a? And it's like, don't look at Keith. Okay, don't rip out my reality and replace it with nothing. I can't talk to you right now. All right, fine. Have another drink.
For a lot of, in that sense, I mean, it's famous for a lot of explorers that actually went into Canada and, mapped it. But then there was the British East India Company, and there was another company, weren't there? Basically, two British, in brackets, two British companies came in and just started harvesting all the natural resources out of it. So that's mainly what it's most famous for. I mean, that's pretty much the history behind how the country got off the ground, I suppose, wasn't it? Near enough wiped out the beaver population along with many other species. So
the Canadians kicked ass. I think it was First World War, Second World War. The Canadians invaded the White House and destroyed the White House at one point, I think.
Oh, good on them.
Kicked their ass or something. Not that it means anything to me. I think it's terrible. But
But yeah, I just the mistake they made was stopping them from rebuilding it, wasn't they? That was the one thing, burning it down, but they should have stayed there. Bit like the French as well. Maybe they should have stayed over there, fighting against the English. But
we have French here in Canada too. They're called Quebec, Quebecians. But from what I've heard, not I don't want to mock or put anybody down, but the Quebecians aren't really liked because at one point they wanted to be their own country. But from what I've heard from people who are from France, the language that the Canadian French speak is kind of like slang, and they're teaching that in the schools here, in the public schools, and of course they tried to teach me that, and I didn't get it. But anyway, of course, as you research stuff and you communicate with people, and people from France just say that it's slang. People from France really can't understand Quebecers. But anyway, that's just...
I mean, I found that when I was out in Austria. When I stayed out there when I was a student, I was learning German, of course, and what you found was, what we got told by the students I was with, is that you're not going to be able to understand us because we speak in slang ourselves. You're being taught sort of proper German, sort of like the equivalent of Queen's English. You're being taught Queen's German.
Proper English.
And when you listen to us speaking, you're not going to be able to understand us because we're not using, the actual proper pronunciation or whatever, Queen's German as such. And, and that's obviously the case with and it'd probably be the same all over the world. If you learn the language from, say, a book or from say an audio, from a dictionary, you actually went to put it to use in that country and tried speaking it, chances are I don't want to understand the word you were saying because they speak slang themselves. They alter the language to suit their tongue, if you like. There's the same with Spanish as well. Spanish has got so many different dialects all over the world. Mm-hmm. Just because someone says they speak Spanish doesn't mean you can necessarily put two people together from different sides of the world who allegedly speak Spanish because they probably still can't understand each other.
Yep.
And it is funny. I mean, even in England, we've got Scotland, Wales, Cornish, people from Essex as well. We can't always understand each other. So that's the funny thing about it. Even on a little island like us, there can be such a diverse range of accents and the way we speak English. So, but it's a code at the end of it. When we speak a code, that's what it is. It's just code.
The English language can be tricky because one word can mean multiple things.
Absolutely.
And one word said, like great, can be spelled 2 or 3 different ways. So that's that's the English language is very, it's like compared to German, it's mystical. You got a meeting of the minds. You have to understand what that person's saying because that one word means those multiple things. So
yeah. But Dan saying no, English is the only screwed up language. I agree. I mean, English seems to be an amalgamation of so many different other languages. It's not a language it's not a unique language of its own. Mm-hmm. It's a bit of a mix of everything. Because we, being an island, the history is every Tom, Dick and Harry wanted to invade us and take it over. And at some point in history, most other, sort of nations, if you like, sort of did to a point, so we've had the Swedish, the Norwegians, Germans, Romans, a lot, coming over here at one point and influencing, the language. So that was, English isn't necessarily a unique language of its own. It's a bastardisation of everything else. So even I don't bloody understand it, and I'll speak it. There you go.
But it's funny because a lot of who I'm talking, you and Paul and a lot of other people from the UK have, even though you're in the UK, your accents are different depending on what part of the UK you are from. Even though you're speaking England or English, I should say, your accents are different. Yeah, that's right. And same with the Irish too. Northern and Southern Belfast, or their accents are just slightly different.
Yeah. It's a lot of people think that people from Northern Ireland have a very strong accent, and they don't. they generally don't. They have a very soft, mild accent, whereas it's usually people in the south of Ireland can have the stronger accents.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it could be, it swings and roundabouts, you know, and it just depends, you know. It just depends on the family you grow up in, I suppose. You know, I think now I live slightly outside of London. I'm just on the edge of the city of London myself. My accent's softened a little bit. It's not as heavy as it was sort of when I used to live nearer, you know, nearer the centre of London. You know, at Surrey Docks, where I was born and brought up around there. I think my accent's slightly softened. It's not as thick and not as heavy as it would have been if I'd have been nearer London.
Yeah, no, I mean, even myself, I have to listen to you, Vin. I mean, I can casually listen to you, but some things I gotta really listen to how you pronounce things.
Oh, okay.
Because I've grown up around the English, the Irish, you know, the Scots, apparently, of course, and you know, that big mixed bag, and so yeah, I don't have a hard time understanding a thick Scots or a thick English accent or anything like that, but I do have to listen to real close to get it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been told that a lot of people say that I speak really fast, or I can speak really fast.
I don't think you're speaking. I think you're speaking normally. I don't think you're speaking.
Yeah, I'm
fast.
Just trying to deliberately slow it down a bit. But,
oh, okay. We don't want to sound boring.
No, that's right. I think I've already lost that one, don't I?
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, but it's one of these things where you do find people from London do tend to talk a lot faster, or do tend to talk quite fast because it's London, for crying out loud. You know, there's no time, so. But yeah, I mean that is sort of a trait of Londoners. You know, we do tend to talk really fast.
Yeah, and with the accent too.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. But Spanish can be like that. You listen to Spanish people talking. God, can they go?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a train that they want to start running their mouths. But it's that's even when you can understand it. You sometimes listen to someone who whose inherent language is Spanish, and you listen to them speak English. Boy, that can be quick. Some of them. You know what I mean? So I remember Gloria Estefan from the 80s. Maybe not. But she used to, was it the Miami Sound Machine? You'd listen to her speak English, and she was one of the she I think got in the Guinness Book of Records for rambling off one of the fastest set of lyrics ever in any record, in English, and she could really speak fast. She just had that gift, and seems like the Spanish seem to pick that up pretty early because of the way their language is. They do tend to speak really quick. But there you go. But anyway, we're nattering on here, we're going off topic. But well, it's what's the time now? It's getting on for 12 o'clock at night now for me, so I think I'm going to have to knock it on the head and get some kip. We've lost a few people now. I suppose they've all need to get some shut eye as well. So that's it. I'm going to wrap it up for the night now. So thanks ever so much for everybody joining in. Too many of you to say who, but you all know who you are. So thanks again for listening in, and thanks to all the listeners. This is awakeradio.co.uk, and I'm your host, Vin James, and this is I'm bringing to an end now. No State Project Revolution. So. Thanks all again. I'll see you again on Sunday, and I'll be playing Mark's show, No State Project Reloaded. And you can actually listen to the live show of the No State Project that Mark will be hosting on Saturday night. You can listen to that from 9 PM GMT, Greenwich Mean Time.